This is a satellite image of downtown Cologne in Germany. Distinct districts are visible. I researched historical epochs, dozens of old city plans, as well as urban planning books. Here's how a typical European city is laid out. We're using the district tool in-game to plan ahead and get a rough layout going. For a European city, we're going to start in the Middle Ages. I researched the 20 largest European cities in the Middle Ages and checked the location of the historic city centers. All of them were located at a river, either inland or where a river meets the sea. Rivers provide safety, food, and resources as well as transportation. For my highly detailed city build, I chose this location. The castle sits atop an easily defendable cliffside surrounded by two rivers. The peninsula opens up into fertile agricultural land. Multiple roads lead out of the city through a small number of gates. The focal point is the small market square and a church. Roads and city blocks as well as buildings are small because traffic was nearly entirely on foot and distances were consequently limited. A city surrounds the castle. The wider road at the edge is where the city wall once sat. We now have defined the location, shape, and size of our medieval old town. For the following epochs and districts, we are also considering these three characteristics. Before discussing the specifics of Renaissance urban planning, here's a useful tip to make your overall city layouts look realistic. Until the advent of streetcars and later on individual motor vehicles, epochs move outwards concentrically from the city center. The exception are newly founded cities, either fort cities or palace cities, coming one epoch later. Alright, as for the Renaissance, it saw the introduction of large plazas as well as grandiose buildings as a focal point. The cities roughly doubled in population between 1300 and 1600, which means new market squares as well as city halls became larger as well. Basically, cities went from this to this. So let's place a new market square close to the medieval city center and have very straight roads lead to it in a nice geometric manner. Cities grew very dense during the Renaissance and often broke out of the old city walls. Compared to the following epoch, however, the Renaissance saw far fewer large-scale city expansions. For my city here, I was thinking of something akin to a one-sided adage. We can also widen a few of the old medieval roads leading to the new market square. Building and block sizes are still small. Now the Baroque epoch is where we really see large-scale changes in city size and layout. The medieval walls were useless against cannons and cities became larger anyways. As a starting point for this epoch that focuses on beauty, we will search for a location for a palace. This palace will be surrounded by large and immaculate gardens. All white boulevards, even wider and prettier than the Renaissance roads before, lead to this palace. We will also make sure to incorporate other geometric forms such as half circles or triangles rather than just grids. The palace and surrounding parks will be placed across a bridge. Previously, bridges were too expensive for smaller cities to have them. Furthermore, in the Baroque, emphasis was put on having buildings look really pretty and represent the status of the ruler. Thus, a hefty investment into a bridge was well worth it considering it gained prestige and access to the palace. Additionally, in this epoch, large-scale redesigns of older parts of the city took place. This is our chance to place new gardens and plazas, as well as break through old medieval blocks. As the city is located next to a river, as well as some woodlands, we're going to set these areas as somewhat wild garden or recreational areas. Next, let's place some adequate city fortifications. We're talking Vauban-style bastions. And even if there are no remnants, what we can however replicate are these large open areas that would have been in front of the bastions to keep the firing area clear. This is called a rayon. And in Cologne, we can see it here. So fun fact, I used to study geography in Cologne and relax with other students in the Greenbelt. We had a few courses in an old fortification building right next to the Greenbelt. I wasn't aware of the history, but our professor explained the location. So anyways, this area will either be parkland nowadays or have a few larger buildings. For example, as I said, university or medical campuses or public administration buildings. The Enlightenment epoch saw a focus on public health and comprehensively planned city expansions. In many cases, cities again doubled in population size compared to 100 years prior. Example for the common grid layouts with main streets and wider side streets, as well as space for public buildings, can be found in St. Petersburg, Washington DC, and Edinburgh. The focus, compared to previous epoch, is less on stunning plazas and avenues and more on efficiency. Here we can even use the CS2 grid tool for roads. In this epoch, public infrastructure and sanitation was super important. We can add more bridges as well as large public buildings in the neoclassical architectural style, if custom assets are available, or the vanilla ones fit well. Researching this video was a lot of effort and plenty of academic reading. Thus, give the video a like if you enjoyed it so far. While previous epochs focused on aesthetics and bettering of urban conditions, during the Industrial Revolution this wasn't important anymore. Instead, focus was on production capacity, productivity, and efficiency. Also, development of areas outside the main city and suburban areas were built up in a huge scale. Population size quadrupled or grew even larger, and city footprints at least doubled. To recreate that, we will focus on infrastructure and industry first, and then on housing in a second step. Now, medieval harbors became too small for the big vessels of the 17th and 18th centuries, like the colonial vessels. And these harbors in turn became too small for the steel ships of the late 19th and early 20th century. So let's choose a location for a new harbor, somewhat outside from the city. Next to that harbor, we will place rough outlines of a huge industrial plant, most likely steelworks, blast furnaces, and so on. Then, let's place another industrial area along another riverside. These areas need to be huge. Next, we need to connect these industrial areas by rail and connect to the map edges as well. We're going to treat rail the way we would highways nowadays, with huge sweeping curves, few crossings, and with a large overall footprint. Now is also the time to place a large central station. As these were buildings that represented power and technology, we can go crazy with raising existing blocks and buildings. The existing grids will be demolished if needed and new streets aligned with the rail. In Cologne, they wanted to place the central station right next to the cathedral due to the view access, and they in fact did. In most cases, though, the main station would be slightly outside the medieval city center. Now we need to house all the workers needed for the factories. We're going to replicate two distinct styles in this case. First, let's go with huge apartment blocks for tenement housing. We can use the full 6 tiles depth from each side of the roads here, as well as the new French and German content creator packs. Let's place a ring around our city and double the city footprint. People were using horse and later electric trams in the city. Thus, we need larger avenues and ring roads at infrastructurally significant locations. As a second style, we're going with factory housing. We're placing these areas close to the factories and focus on tiny row houses and duplexes with no gardens. In-game, that would be a 1x2 lot size. The blocks are consequently a lot smaller and thinner. No need for much public infrastructure here, people just needed to work and live close to the factories. Lastly, we're going to place a zoo in the city. This epoch also marked the height of colonial expansion in Africa and already strongly established trades with colonies from the previous century. Nations wanted to display these possessions, and one form of that was through zoos. I will split the 20th century into 2 epochs. The pre-war era before the Second World War is somewhat a continuation and slow transition from the industrial era onwards. This epoch focuses on remediating the issues from the previous epoch by providing more public spaces and overall better urban planning thanks to new technologies. To represent that, we're going to place a large city forest with park-like amenities in the outskirts surrounded by a villa district. We can see an example of that in Cologne-Braunsfeld and Cologne-Lindenthal. Also, the wealthy people in that district are getting their own dedicated train station. Also, we're going to place a large rail yard that looks more contemporary and modern compared to what would have been built during industrialization. As more and more trucks and cars were also being introduced to the city, we will also need to consider placing it close to a major road or even building a major road. Furthermore, we're going to connect the city better to surrounding regions with more local roads. No great separated highways yet though. This epoch can be summarized in 2 key terms: urban renewal and suburbanization. Urban renewal focuses on removing old and decaying buildings and trying to do a fresh start after the horrors of the Second World War. Public housing and major car-focused road reworks and infrastructure construction are staples of this epoch. Let's find an area in one of the older districts that would be crowded and roads clogged due to its location. It's time for some major urban renewal works. Keep in mind that these were planned top-down and local activism was either ignored or shut down. This is important to consider in contrast to the next epoch. So, how about here at this bridge or intersection? Let's remove this whole existing infrastructure and plan an inner city highway. Similar to the palace in Koblenz, we're going to put a car-centric interchange right next to it. Also, let's connect the central station with that highway. Next, let's check for a spot close to these highways for a good location for public housing area with panel buildings. Click on this video linked here to see how you can design such areas more in depth. The third feature of this epoch is large-scale suburbanization. Single-family houses and car focus is the name of the game. Let's place 3 or 4 areas way outside of the city next to some regional roads or highways. Building laws are still somewhat small compared to today, and the suburban layouts look similar to grids but slightly curved or broken up. There's strict road hierarchy and plenty of on-street parking. Next, let's place large commercial areas and super shopping centers in between suburbs and the city. Lastly, let's place an office park in a similar location. Lot sizes will be huge with plenty of surrounding surface parking and few main entrance roads into the area. Post-1990s urban planning has increasingly emphasized sustainability and mixed-use developments. We can showcase sustainability by upgrading roads with street trees, removing parking spaces, pedestrianizing shopping streets. Also, once added to the game, we need to add plenty of cycling infrastructure. As for large projects and districts, we can place a solar farm outside the city, surrounded by a few farm fields, and add a wind energy park as well. The placement should be away from population and either surrounded by fields or dotted around forests. Keeping sustainability in mind, both of these energy sources kill birds and wildlife, but at a much lower rate than cats, windows, traffic, as well as other sources of energy, so let's roll with it to fit this epoch in game. Now, mixed-use development also focuses on sustainability. In this case, sustainable land use, by making trips shorter through focusing on walking, cycling, and public transport. It combines residential, commercial, and recreational spaces within the same area. Here we can also play around a bit with unique local community ideas, because compared to previous epochs, planning now also involves local groups and people much more. We're going to place such a mixed-use development next to the harbor, where once an industrial estate would have been. We've journeyed through the historical epochs, exploring how European cities evolved from medieval times to the modern era. By using the CS District tool, we've seen how strategic planning and historical context creates realistic and immersive city layouts. To see how I implemented these steps in Cities Skylines 1 in a super realistic city, check out the video on the left. For another suggested video, check out the one on the right.